Chapter 23, October 15, 1963 evening. Flapjack and me are only halfway home when burnt air scrapes inside my nose. My skin aches, my whole body throbs. Soon enough, I see a mob of neighbors in the lane. Then I see my house and Uncle Bump's shed are one fiery blaze. Anger boils inside me more than I can take. I weave through the people to the fire. The men in the Reverend's brigade race from their well with buckets. They inch to the flames, dump the water. Reverend, I shout, but he can only see the runners with buckets. He can only hear the crumbling clapboards. He can't see me standing there. He can't hear me cry. Uncle Bump, I scream. I chase a flame up the porch steps, but just as I reach out for the front door, someone tugs my hips. I fall backwards down the stairs. Here's the Reverend holding my face next to his. What are you doing? He's crazy with fear. Where's my uncle? I yell. Get on down the lane. I'm not running, I tell him. The Reverend glances past me to the flames. What's with y'all? Where is he? I yell. The Reverend looks back at me. I'ma tell it straight, he says. I swallow. Sheriff bombed the house. Smoked me and Bump out. Bump's in jail. Sheriff says he'll take Bump to court come morning, the Reverend sighs. I'm sorry, he says, then he leaves me here on the ground. By the time Bessie comes and wraps her fingers around my wrist, it's dark. Let's go, she says, and pulls me up. Something important. And I wonder what could possibly be more important than my house burning to the ground, Uncle Bump in jail, Mama going mad. I follow Bessie down the dirt road while the truth comes in bits and pieces. My map, gone. My swing, gone. My jump rope, gone. The television, gone. The television. I don't know why a broken down television I can't turn on matters, but it does. It matters for everything. When we get to the end of the lane, I stop and hunch over, heave the smoky air into my lungs. But Bessie doesn't care. I can't breathe. She's still grabbing onto my wrists, leading me through stalks of milkweed. Shut your eyes, she orders. Go on. I don't want to do it, she says. My eyelids, they fall anyway. And the next thing I know, I hear the milkweed stalks rustle and Bessie run off. I'm alone. At least I think I am. But a shirt against my face clears my nose, and a mix-up scent of baseball and autumn helps me breathe. What happens next makes no sense at all. Something about the smell and the heavy arm around my shoulders takes me home. And even though I know my home's gone, and all of a sudden the sheets Mama sewed with suns and stars, the kitchen table, my mat, my swing, my jump rope, and even my television doesn't mean a thing. When at long last I get the guts to open my eyes, I can see my home. It's right here with me. My brother's beside me. Here, under the bright full moon, I cry and shake and I can't stop. It's like I've dropped a sack of potatoes I've carried for 96 days. All this time I made myself believe he was okay. Now I can't be strong another second. Everything turns dark. My head hurts. I hear a groan. And I realize that sound, it comes from me. I never meant to shock you, Elias says. He rubs the top of my head while I take a few minutes to put everything back together again. Me, here in the milkweed, smoke in the sky. I try to speak, but my throat's charred. My brother scoops his arm under my neck, helps me sit. Drink, he says. He hands me a canteen of water. But I'm crying and drinking at the same time, so there's more water going out than coming in. I hid out here in the milkweed till dark. Then I covered my face with this kerchief. Elias pulls a bandana out of his pocket. I saw Bessie at the back of the crowd, so I hid behind a tree and threw a rock to get her attention. At least she ran right over and hugged me up before she went woozy, unlike you. Sorry, I say. If I knew girls were going to be fainting at my feet, I'd have come back sooner, he says. But I don't think it's funny, my brother can tell. I sent a message so you'd know I was okay, he said, but Bessie said y'all never got word. Elias pulls me into his chest, hugs me tight. And that's when I see his brand new sneakers. But I don't want to ask questions. I just want to stay here in his arms. It's a miracle he's back and Uncle Bump's alive. And truth be told, a piece of me in hammers and nails. Here all this time, Elias was safe while Mama, me, and Bessie filled the well with our tears. He didn't want anyone to trace the note back. He slipped up, Elias says, his voice deader than the ash. I overheard the driver in the shop. He was talking about the butterbean fiasco, saying they're blaming Bump. Second I heard that, I knew I had to risk being seen. When the driver finally left the shop, I bolted home. Who slipped up, I asked, and picked a pot of milkweed off a stalk. What are you talking about? I'll tell you later. Right now we've got to take care of Uncle Bump. It seems if some folks get their way, my brother gets that faraway look in his eyes, and I sees there's something he doesn't want me to know. What? I stuck in my breath. They'll put him under the jail, not in it. What? My brother isn't making sense. The Reverend said Uncle Bump's in jail. He'll go to court come morning, I tell him. Not if they kill him first, Elias whispers. I tear apart a pot of milkweed. All the feathers inside fall on me. Then I look up at my brother and wonder if he's gone mad. There's something Mom and me need to tell you a while now, he says. We've been waiting till you're old enough. I can see now's the time. While Elias talks, all the lies my family told me collapse on me like a pile of bricks. They press on my chest. I can barely breathe. I'm afraid I won't breathe. Afraid I'll die. Because the truth Elias tells me, it might just be more than what I can take. My brother tells me all about Daddy. That Daddy didn't die of pneumonia like Mama always said. You all right, he asks. I go ahead and nod. But how am I supposed to be all right with the fact that my daddy was actually murdered? How am I supposed to be all right when my family didn't even trust me with the truth? I can't stay out here long. If the wrong folks see me, we'll have double trouble, he says. So you've got to talk. You've got to tell our story. I dig my fingernails into the dirt. The story of our family, the real one. When folks hear it, they'll remember what's at stake for Uncle Bump. For us all. Elias swipes under his nose, but his tears fall anyway. Can you tell it? He asks. The spark catch inside me. They burst into a river of flame. Yeah, I whisper. I can, and I will. When I hear that whisper, I knew whose it is. Before this moment, I would have sworn that whisper belonged to my brother, who's always sure where to go, what to do. But when I hear it now, so clear, so close, I know that voice. It's my own. Chapter 24. October 15, 1963, night. I leave my brother in the milkweed and race back to the lane. My neighbors are still fixed on the flames. Shadows flicker on their faces, and one thing's clear. We can't stand here and watch our lives burn. This isn't just about Uncle Bump. This isn't just about us pickets. This is about all of us, who we are, what our future holds. Now I'm madder than a rare roast devil. I grab a bucket set on the porch of a nearby house, lug it to the lane, turn it over, and climb on top. Then I scream louder than I thought I knew how. Listen! All of a sudden, I remember what that man from the NAACP said. When it's your time, you'll know. You won't be able to sit on the rumps and watch. You'll feel it in your bones. You won't have a choice but to get up and, there's no doubt about it. This is our time, I shout. And what do you know? Cool Breeze Huddleston is the first to hear me shout hellfire and brimstone. He's the first to turn and stare. You really ready? You really, Cool Breeze? I yell. He nods. Then prove it, I shout. Cool Breeze glides toward me like he's under my spell. Now I want you to run faster than Jesse Owens in training, I tell him. Get Mrs. Jacks. Tell her this is the big test, the final exam. We need all our people from Weaver to meet us down at the jailhouse. We need them to help save Uncle Bump. We need them to help save us all. When I say it, I know it sounds real good, and I wish Mrs. Jacks could see me taking charge of the madness, trying to make a dream come true in a matter of hours while others spend their whole lives. After Cool Breeze runs off, a few more neighbors turn from the dying flames to listen. To listen to me. Delilah, I yell. She pushes through the crowd toward me. You be my special helper. I want you to get to Bramble lickety split. I'm expecting her to say thrills, chills, and charges. I'm expecting her to turn away not to help. But Delilah just stands, eyes wide. I know you can do it, I tell her. Then Mr. Montgomery calls, Come on, Delilah, and he runs beside his daughter all the way down the lane. Smoke swirls above the empty lot where my house, Uncle Bump's shed, and then my swing used to be. My eyes sting. I swipe under my nose, and this time it works. The tears, they stay inside. One by one, my neighbors turn from the flames to listen to me. And one by one, I send them off through the country to call on our sisters and brothers, our teachers and preachers for help. Then I jump off the bucket and follow the Reverend while the brigade stays behind to finish off the fire. We're a thundering herd of feet trudging along the dirt lane off the jailhouse to make sure Uncle Bump survives the night. The second I turn around, one thing's clear. The Reverend and me are leading a march every bit as powerful as the one in Washington, D.C. that Reverend Walker told us all about. Our neighbors follow us across the tracks. While we walk, I tell the Reverend that I know my family story and I want to share it. The Reverend looks at me. His eyes glisten, and I've got a feeling he knows my family story too. He wraps his arm around my shoulders, gives me a squeeze. When we turn down Main Street, white folks back up against the nearest buildings, shocked to see us coming through. As soon as we arrive at the jailhouse, the Reverend motions us to circle it. And before the sheriff can figure out what's what, a human shield surrounds the concrete building. Hours later, when the sheriff's tired of yelling, he decides to aim his shotgun at the crowd. But it's too late to scare us away. That's because under the bright moon, we see folks from Darwiller, Titus, Hominy, and Jigsaw pouring into town. Young and old, they're coming to stand beside us. The Reverend and me, we climb onto a boulder beside the jail. From up here, I can see Curtis Bertrand Huddleston rowing down the road on the back of a flatbed truck, proving he really is Cool Breeze after all. 100 folks from Weaver follow, and there's Delilah marching in from Bramble, followed by more girls and boys than ever trailed her at the schoolhouse. A light bulb hangs from a wire outside the jail. A patch of light falls on the Reverend. Y'all, he shouts. He waits till everyone hushes, then he says, We're going to spend the night arm in arm like a chain that can't be broken. Folks coming in from throughout the country, we welcome you to join our circle. The time has come for the Negroes of Thunder Key County to stand up and fight. Too many of our sisters and brothers have been injured, killed. We can't let this go on another day, another hour, another second. The fate of Bump Dawson is the fate of us all. Amen, folks shout. Glory be. Then the Reverend's eyes get fixed on something far away, and I see what. My lip wiggles worse than ever. There are 4 Klansmen dressed in white sheets and pointy hats. They creep closer. One holds a rope noose. My head gets lighter. Brother Babcock's eyes go swollen. Delilah lets out a blood-curdling scream. Then a raspy voice in the crowd starts to sing, Oh, freedom. The second I hear that voice, I know Mrs. Jacks is here, helping us rise above. Our voices bond together. They rise up like a force that can fight. Oh, freedom over me. When the Klansman gets to the rim of our circle round the jail, the Reverend motions us to part the way. And I can't imagine what's going on. Does the Reverend want us to let them through to Uncle Bump? Our voices ring strong as people separate. But the Klansmen don't tromp down the clearing to the jail. Instead, they huddle. I feel I might collapse. Then the Klansmen turn away and march back down the street, the one on crutches trailing behind. And I don't know what's gotten into me, but I start jiggling all over the place and hallelujahing and raising my hands up to the sky like the good Lord's under my body and soul. One thing's clear. Our large crowd of Negroes scared the jeepers out of those Klansmen. By parting the way, we let them see just how many of us are here, all in one place together. We've ruined their plans for Uncle Bump, at least for now. Bump, the Reverend calls towards the jailhouse window slit. I imagine Uncle Bump slumped in the corner of a 4x4 foot cell. 1,000 folks are here for you, the Reverend shouts. Then Mrs. Jack sings, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And our voices ring out for hours. There's hundreds of friends plus hundreds of strangers, but it feels to me we're all part of one big family. Once the sheriff gets tired of our singing and leaves, the Reverend calls to the crowd from on top of the boulder. "Now I'd like y'all to sit and listen," he says. "I'm going to ask Addie Ann to tell you folks her family story. As you'll see, it's not unique, but it's why we're here, to change the course of history. What happened to Addie Ann's father is part of our common past, and what will become of Bump Dawson is the part of the future we share. It's our job to make sure Lump lives free." Then the Reverend touches my shoulder, and it's like tag I'm it. Here I am in the boulder looking out at these people. They've come to help my uncle. They've come to help themselves. My breath is slow, the fire's inside me, and all I can do is tell my story. The first part's easy. It's what Mama told me time and time again, the history I've always called my own. "My daddy was Brayburn Pickett," I say. A little louder, the Reverend whispers. I nod and call it the same voice I used on that bucket, the voice I used to get these folks here in the first place. "Uncle Bump was just a teenager when his big sister married my father," I say. "Uncle Bump and my daddy met every morning for coffee at the diner. One day, an extra pretty lady waltzed into the diner. She came from Hornet, Mississippi. She was visiting a friend who lives in Nashville. In case you're wondering, Nashville is the capital of Tennessee," I say. "Nashville is where my parents and Uncle Bump lived. According to Mama, it took one pretty lady. Then Uncle Bump was fast in the track to the Mississippi Delta." All of a sudden, Uncle Bump's deep laugh tumbles out of the jailhouse. It fills my whole heart. It helps me go on. "Uncle Bump got settled in Hornet, Mississippi," I say. Then he sent words to my parents in Nashville, Tennessee. Uncle Bump told my parents that Negroes down in Hornet could use my father's carpentry skill. Daddy couldn't stand to build another pretty home for white folks in Nashville, so lickety-split, he packed up the family and set off for a new adventure in the Delta. I close my eyes and imagine Daddy driving down the highway, top of the car down, wind flying through his hair, Mama beside him, 3-year-old Elias in back. I take a deep breath. As soon as my father got out of Nashville, he saw the Go On Forever fields. He saw the Go On Forever sky. He fell in love with the Delta, in love forever. That part was easy, but now my legs turn froggy because I've got to tell the rest. The part I just heard for the first time, the story I can't believe is mine. "Daddy," I say, "it's a good thing this crowd is silent since I don't have enough strength to talk as loud as before. I used to think Daddy died of pneumonia, but now I know that's not true. The truth, it's ugly. It's worse." The Reverend nods like I should go ahead, keep telling what I know, so I close my eyes and look for the river, feel the river, and the water crashing over the rocks in the riverbed, rushing so fast, not stopping while I tell the story Elias told me. My story, my story, my story. "We moved to Hornet," I say. All I hear is a nightmare full of colors and smells. My daddy wanted to build the Negro side of Hornet into a place where real human beings could live happy. From the way I heard it, folks across town got mighty hot when some of our houses looked better than theirs. And Daddy didn't want to build home for white folks, no matter how much money they offered. Then, I don't want to tell them, just like Elias didn't want to tell me. I don't want the children here to know things like this can happen, but I've got no choice. Elias said by telling our history, we might as well change the future for Uncle Bump and for us all. So I drew in a breath. My daddy, I say, he had ideas of his own. For a minute, I stop and wonder what my life would be like if Daddy had just followed the rules. I'm tossing that over when the Reverend whispers, "Go on, Addie Ann, go on." Then I take another breath. The river curls and waves. My daddy didn't want to depend on white folks to earn money, I say, and that, I reckon, was the problem. I look at the people and see their eyes glow in the moonlight. I wish I could snap my fingers and say, "I'm kidding, y'all," but now I know I've got to tell the rest, the whole truth, the most horrible part. Daddy turned down an offer to build a grand house for Hornet's white mare. That was it. The next night, a couple hooded Klansmen on horses trotted up to my family's house. Then I can't help it. I speed through my story like it's happening again. Those men grab my brother, Mama too, yank him out of the house, keep a pistol aimed at Daddy, force him to stay inside. Inside me, fire rages through my legs and around my head, lighting the dark. The men throw a firebomb into the house. The house bursts into flames. Mama grabs Elias by the wrist, races down the street, away from the sight. My brother pulls free, runs home. "Daddy, Daddy," Elias yells, but no matter how many times he calls, Daddy won't come on out of his burning home. I bury my face in my hands and picture Uncle Bump playing Jim Runyon to friends, someone bursting in with the news. Uncle Bump running out so fast as he could, cheeks covered with tears, muscles itching to swing. Now the Reverend hugs me. "Can you finish?" he asks. It's all I can do to nod. The people wait like they would wait 100 years. But a wild rage fills me, a rage that falls behind words, that gasps between breaths, that poisons my tears. A couple days later, I say, the Hornet Herald published an interview with the mayor of Hornet. The mayor said he hired my father to build him a new home. He said that he paid my father for the job in advance. Then he said my father spent all the money but refused to build the house. The mayor said that when he ordered my father into court, my daddy was so full of shame The truth burns inside me, and I wonder sometimes if it's better not to know. I open my mouth to speak, but I can't. My lips are parched. Someone carries a jug of water to the boulder. I sip the water down, a drip down my throat into my chest, to the river. That one sip is too much. The river spills its banks. It floods. The truth floods out of me, out of my heart, out of my mouth, out to the people, to the old folks who've never heard it, who've heard it before, to the children who will never want to hear it again. The mayor said Daddy burned himself up in his own home, but my daddy hadn't ever taken the money. It was all a lie. There's goose flesh all over me. Mama, I say. She was left alone with my brother, only 4 years old, me on the way. Daddy dead and gone, our home nothing but a pile of rubble. That's when Uncle Mama's brother moved us from Hornet to Kukuchu. That lady from the diner never did turn into his wife, so we were the closest family my uncle had. Uncle Bump used whatever money he earned to buy our food and clothes. Though he never went past 5th grade himself, Uncle Bump made sure I got all the way to 7th grade, and my brother went all the way to high school. When at long last I get to the end of my story, folks break out singing. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. I climb down from the boulder and sprawl out onto the ground. No blanket, no pillow, no nothing. I've never been so tired in all my life. I stare up at the dark sky and wonder what was the last thing Daddy ever saw. I hope it was something nice. Maybe a photograph of him and Mom at their wedding. Maybe a picture Elias drew.